Suggests it'll be up to others to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we'll be leaving very soon. And if France or some other country wants to get oil or gas, they'll go up through the strait and Hormuz Strait. They'll go right up there and they'll be able to fend for themselves. I think it'll be very safe, actually, but we have nothing to do with that. What happens in the strait, we're not going to have anything to do with.
The comments come hours after Donald Trump lashed out at America's allies again over what he says is a lack of support for his war with Iran. President Trump has specifically criticised European nations after Spain, Italy and France refused to let US warplanes use their military bases. In the social media post, Donald Trump told countries being squeezed by the fuel crisis to go to the Strait and take it. He went on to say the USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. Go get your own oil. Questions have also arisen over America's support of the NATO alliance. Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth echoed the president's comments, and when asked if the US is still committed to NATO's collective defence, he declined to reaffirm its commitment.
A lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope on behalf of the free world. These are missiles that don't even range the United States of America. They range allies and others, and yet when we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing overflight, we get questions or roadblocks or hesitations. And the president's pointing out, you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them. He's simply pointing that out, and ultimately it'll be his decision of what that looks like after this is complete.
President Trump's latest diplomatic row with America's allies comes as Iran continues to pile pressure on the US, threatening American companies in the region. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has listed 18 companies it'll attack in retaliation to US strikes, including Microsoft, Google, Apple, Intel, IBM, Tesla and Boeing. The Israeli military is planning to destroy Lebanon's border villages in a similar way to its demolition of parts of Gaza. Israel's defence minister says his army will be creating what he calls a buffer zone in the area. Lebanon has labelled it a land grab.
This was Beirut today. Another Israeli strike. All necessary, the Israelis say, for the security of their people and to eliminate Hezbollah, the Lebanese militia and political movement allied with Iran. While the world's attention is focused on Iran and the Gulf, Israel is hitting Lebanon very hard, justifying it with Hezbollah's attacks after Israel and the US went to war with the Iranians. In fact, Israel has been launching repeated airstrikes on Lebanon, at times almost daily, since the ceasefire in 2024. What has changed is the intensity. These were reinforcements heading for the border as Israel sends in more troops to invade and occupy a broad strip of South Lebanon using Gaza tactics.
All the houses in the villages near the border in Lebanon will be demolished, like the model of Rafah and Bet Hanun in Gaza, in order to remove once and for all the threats near the border for the residents of the north.
Ambassadors, Excellencies.
At the United Nations in New York, there was condemnation of the killing of 3 UN peacekeepers in South Lebanon and huge concern as a humanitarian crisis lurches towards catastrophe.
In Lebanon, more than 1.1 million people have been displaced over the past 4 weeks, including more than 370,000 children. Over 200,000 people have crossed into Syria in the past month. A cycle of coercive displacement is unfolding.
People driven from their homes by Israeli attacks are camping on the streets of Beirut. Lebanon's fragile state is not capable of feeding or housing so many displaced people. Nariman Alisa, a 12-year-old Syrian girl, is sheltering with her aunt. Her parents, 2 brothers, and a sister were killed around 2 weeks ago when Israel destroyed their home in southern Beirut.
I was at my aunt's and we heard there was a strike. I said, let's go to Mama's. We went and found that the building had collapsed on Mama and Papa. I hope I can go back to school. I hope I can play with my friends again and that life returns to how it was before. It's ugly. I hope it will become more beautiful.
Lebanon's crisis and Israel's attacks, a senior Lebanese diplomatic source told me, are increasing support for Hezbollah, Iran's ally. And Israel, the source said, is killing Lebanon.
Back home, a 37-year-old man has appeared in court charged with the murder of a man he lived with in far north Queensland. Roseanne Maloney reports from Cairns.
37-year-old Tristan Harry Bunkle was first arrested and charged by police yesterday afternoon around Mareeba in relation to the death of a 70-year-old man in Dimbula. Now, he's facing one murder charge and another charge of misconduct with a corpse by interference, both of which police say are domestic violence charges. Now, police first launched an investigation after they were called to a property in Dimbula, about 100 kilometres west from here in Cairns, to conduct a welfare check on the 70-year-old man. It was on arrival at that property that they discovered human remains. Here's a bit of what they told us earlier.
When police attended there on Tuesday the 24th of March on that evening, there was a fire burning on that property and police saw what they felt was human remains. They took immediate action to attempt to recover them and to extinguish that fire. So that's when the investigation really picked up and kicked off from there. Yeah, it's certainly one of the more confronting I've heard of, and I've seen obviously the images from there. So I think that they reacted superbly on the night. Yeah.
Police say they'll be alleging Mr Bunkle killed the 70-year-old man before setting fire to his body after his death. They'll also be alleging the two men who they say lived together at the Dimbula property were known to each other, not directly related but through marriage, and that an altercation took place between the two men on the night before police were called to the property. Now, Mr Bunkle had his case before the Mareeba Magistrates Court this morning with his lawyers appearing for him. They made no application for bail and he's been remanded in custody until his next court appearance in June.
A man is in a critical condition in hospital after being shot twice by police in North Brisbane. It's the fourth police-involved shooting in Queensland this year. Liz Gwynn reports.
Police say officers were called to the Arana Hills home behind me to carry out a welfare check at around 12:30 this afternoon after receiving a call from the man's mother. Police tried to encourage the 19-year-old to seek treatment for his mental health minutes before he allegedly produced a large kitchen knife.
As a result of our discussions, which were ongoing for some time on the lower level of the premises behind me, we will allege that the man has produced a large kitchen knife, and as a result of that there has been 2 shots fired by one of the male officers which has struck the victim.
Police rendered first aid, but the man has been taken to hospital in a critical condition after being shot twice in the stomach, and he's undergoing surgery. Police say the officer who shot the man was a first-year constable and is distraught.
We don't come to work every day expecting this, and when the reality hits that something like this has occurred, it is traumatic for all involved, and that young man's feeling it right now.
Police were wearing body-worn cameras at the time, and that footage will form part of their investigation. The timing of when a taser was deployed by an officer will also be subject to their investigation. Police say the Ethical Standards Command will look into this matter with oversight by the Crime and Corruption Commission. This is the 4th police-involved shooting in Queensland since the start of the year.
A man is in hospital under police guard after being shot in Sydney's west overnight. The man presented to the emergency department with a gunshot wound to his stomach just after 11 o'clock. Shortly afterwards, police were called to Greystanes, where a shot had been fired at a house. A crime scene has been set up and investigations are continuing. Police have confirmed fugitive Desi Freeman was the man killed at a remote property in Victoria this week, bringing an end to Australia's largest ever tactical police operation. Ben Knight reports from Walwa in northeast Victoria, near where Freeman was found.
Police obviously never doubted the identity of the person they shot on Monday morning here, but it's now been confirmed that it was Desi Freeman. So now the Victorian Police Homicide Squad will conduct their investigation on behalf of the coroner, and the rest of the investigation will continue. At the property itself, it's still a crime scene, but there's much less activity today than we saw over the past couple of days. We saw a big contingent of police vehicles leaving late yesterday, and it's expected that investigations on the site will pick up today. We're finding out a little bit more about what happened on Monday morning. We're told that 8 snipers from the Special Operations Group fired their weapons towards Desi Freeman, but we're also told that they also tried non-lethal rounds, non-lethal batons and, of course, CS gas, which was punched through that converted container by the armoured Bearcat vehicle, and it was after that that Desi Freeman emerged carrying a weapon and was shot dead. As we say, we don't know how many of those bullets hit him, but we know that 8 people fired. It's been interesting to have a look at the property itself, because obviously a lot of people have been asking how could no one have seen what was going on there, how could no one have seen any movement, any unusual activity, even an unusual vehicle coming in from the road in what is really quite a remote part of Victoria. Well, the answer to that on the ground is that while the property itself is actually well tucked away from the road, you can't really see what's going on from the road, nor can you really see what's going on in there from the neighbouring properties without the use of binoculars. The road itself is quite busy. It's the main tourist road through a main tourist area. Just across the road is the Murray River. There is a free camping area. It's well frequented, that road, by motorbike riders, by caravanners and other tourists who are making their way around this region. So as people here said, you really wouldn't notice an unusual vehicle. You probably wouldn't notice unusual activity. And indeed, as one of them said to me, you probably wouldn't even pay attention if you heard gunshots going off. It could be a farmer dealing with some injured stock. It could be some locals doing some target practice over some drinks on a Friday night.
Ben Knight there. Well, 200 workers in Queensland and South Australia have lost their jobs after the collapse of seafood giant A. Raptis & Sons. Administrators appointed last month have been unable to find a buyer for the seafood wholesaler. 14 of the company's vessels will sit idle in Northern Australia on the opening day of banana prawn season. The closure adds to concerns over the viability of the industry in the Gulf of Carpentaria. More than 80,000 children aged 5 and under were not fully up to date with their vaccinations at the end of last year. It's the 5th year of decline in the vaccination coverage for children at the 1, 2 and 5 year milestones. Public health expert Frank Beard is concerned by the decline.
Before the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, immunisation coverage had been steadily increasing across the board for about 7 or 8 years. However, since the pandemic, it's all been downhill. And so we now have 5 consecutive years of decline at all the relevant age groups. Certainly the declining vaccine coverage does make unvaccinated individuals prone to some quite serious vaccine-preventable diseases and can cause hospitalisation and even death. We've been conducting large national surveys of parents of young children, and those surveys have found that parents report a range of barriers, so difficulty getting appointments with their GP or other immunisation provider, difficulty with costs associated with appointments, difficulty with transport getting there, needing to take time off work during business hours. And